Hey there, Jake from B&H. Today I'm joined by Mike from Sony. He's got a brand new camera for us, the RX10 Mark IV. Now the RX10 Mark III, pretty awesome camera. And so what's the improvements now with the Mark IV? What are we getting?
Yeah, of course. So the Mark IV, the biggest improvement and one of the biggest drawbacks on the 10 Mark III, it was a great travel camera, it was a great wildlife camera, but it wasn't, the autofocus wasn't fast enough for sports, and it wasn't fast enough for fast action. So where the RX10 Mark IV really improves is that we have a new sensor. So it's not only is it a backside illuminated sensor, but it's a stack sensor. And what that means is that the DRAM is built into the chip itself, so it's able to think, it's able to act, and it's able to do things really fast. So now we have 315 phase detection autofocusing points on the sensor itself. So you can track moving subjects extremely, extremely fast, where we actually borrowed a lot of the technology from the professional full-frame camera, the A9, and put it into the RX10 Mark IV.
Speaking of the A9 could do 20 frames per second.
It can.
This guy supersedes that at 24 frames per second?
It does. We're not talking about video, so it's 24 frames per second in stills with full autofocus, full auto exposure, and completely silent.
So still silent shooting at 24 frames per second. And new improved LCD screen, touch LCD screen now, right, with the autofocus?
Yep, so you can, so the LCD screen is touch, so you can do single touch for video or for stills, or you can also use it to touch and then drag. So that way the speed of your finger will actually determine how fast you want to move, transition from one subject to the next. So it's really easy. It's not made for going through the menu, it's not made for anything, it's just made for touch AF, which makes it, I think, really useful.
Okay, 600 millimeters. That's pretty long.
Yeah.
Okay, it can get a little shaky sometimes when you're holding it, but you have a fix for that?
So we had optical stabilization in the 3, and we just improved it on the 4. So especially on the long end. So when you're at 600 millimeters, it's unbelievably stable. So if you're zooming out and you're at 600, it's almost as though the camera is on like a gimbal. It's extremely, extremely steady. So you're able to track your motion, because that's one of the hardest parts about shooting fast moving subjects, is that if it starts to move at 600, you don't know where it is and you lose your frame. So now you're able to keep your field of view, and you'll be able to keep it nice and steady, so you can track your action a heck of a lot easier than what you were able to do before.
4K, still there. Ultra HD, 30 frames per second. HD, up to 120 frames per second. But there is one new and improved feature. It's your HFR. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so where we had HFR, which stands for high frame rate, so the camera can shoot up to 960 frames per second. So that in and of itself isn't new, but we're able to get almost double the time. So before we were able to do 960 frames per second up to 4 seconds, but now we can do 960 frames per second up to 7 seconds. And I know that doesn't seem like a lot, 7 seconds, but if you're shooting at 960 for 7 seconds and you slow it down 40 times, that means what, 40 times 7?
Yeah, we'll figure out the math later on that one. But no, it does make a difference. It really does. That extra time, you never know what that moment could have been. Especially if you're shooting sports, you can't redo it, so it's definitely crucial. Memory cards, still SDXC cards, but a little different for recording video now. Tell me about that a little bit.
So the video on this camera is just as impressive as the stills. It's no line skipping, no pixel binning, full pixel readout in 4K and HD. One thing that we changed a little bit, instead of having dual record, where it'll do a 4K file or an HD file, it'll also give you, it used to give you an MP4 file, like a really small file that you can share, you can edit. But now instead of just a plain old MP4 file, it gives you a proxy file. So now you're going to record a 4K file and a proxy file to the same card at the same time. And the camera also adds, it used to have S-Log2, now it also adds S-Log3.
It has S-Log3?
It does, yeah, same as the big boys. So, I mean, and of course you add that with now the phase detection autofocus, it's a beast of a video camera.
Who's this camera for?
I think it's for advanced amateurs. I think it's for professionals. I think it's for that travel photographer. It's also, I think, good for someone who's stepping up to an SLR. And now that with that 1-inch stack sensor, the image quality algorithms that we borrowed from the A9 on this camera, you're going to get image quality that is also just unbelievable. It rivals any of the APS-C cameras out there. So it's kind of designed for everybody.
Fantastic. Well, here we are a year later, new and improved RX10 Mark IV. Mike, thanks for stopping by.
Thanks,
appreciate it. Jake from B&H, thanks for watching.